Hi, good morning. Welcome to Sage Time. Welcome to this moment. We just had our full moon in Taurus, exact, maybe an hour ago or so. Can you feel it? I can feel it. All right, let's start with our beautiful invocation. This is a safe space. A space where love is free to grow, and growth with love, from love, is honored. Here we learn to listen with more deeply, with compassion and care, as we open our souls more wholly and fully to the highest truths, with divine love and grace. So it is. Welcome to Sage Time. I don't know if I said that already. Hi, good morning. New things are brewing. Oh, we got 3 animal oracle cards. Do you love this? It's in the wee hours of the morning and it's dark still-ish. The light's starting to reveal itself under the cloud cover. It's all misty drizzle here in the Pacific Northwest. And I feel like I'm in this coziness of my little dark nook, my little cavern and cave. Maybe you're feeling that too, that warmth and that warm embrace that fall beckons us into, that inner warmth, right? That inner fire. We keep vigil by lighting a candle and maintaining focus on that warmth, that fire, that flame, but allowing the dark to provide this incredible soft and nurturing embrace with that fiery flame. While small, it is mighty, right? What's that Shakespeare phrase, that quote? Something to the effect of, she may be small, but she is mighty. I'll have to look it up. Maybe I'll put that in the title. Oh, there's big giggles coming through. Hi, I'm glad you're here. I have a little oolong tea. There's that warmth, that fire. We drink tea, we do things externally, like having that warmth of tea, something healthy and nourishing and nurturing, but also that Venusian self-love aspect, Taurus, right? Full moon in Taurus. That self-care, that little bit of luxury that reminds us, you know, we don't need the big overconsumptions, right? But the little things that remind us the feelings and sensations that then we can further practice and cultivate, so that when we are in the darkness and we can't find the light, and maybe somebody blew it out for a second, snuffed out our candlelight within, the memory of it's always there and present, so it's always there and present too, when we can just, not just, but when we can then turn our focus inward and find that memory within us. Memories that were reinforced by warm teas on a cold autumn night, or a hug with a favorite pet or a child, or sitting by a fire and looking out at the storm. All these types of memories. And the memories themselves, with our internal focus, reignite that flame more fervently. Reignite from memory, because memory is still always in existence within the physical material reality, as well as the creation reality, the imaginal reality. And so we can bridge that and reignite that flame within us with more potency and power. Well, that was a really cool thing to have come about and be said. I'm going to have to bring in more light, though, I think, for reading the cards. The animals that came out for you today, for you with this new moon in, full moon in Taurus. Dragonfly, magic. Bee, community. And elk, nobility. Okay. There's your dragonfly. Doink. And your bee in community. And the noble elk. This is interesting that this is coming up right now. I don't know where I read it. Maybe I actually read it in the book that comes with the description of the elk. The male elk of the herd, the dominant, or not dominant male, but the protector, the patriarch, the healthy patriarch of an elk herd will, while the herd is relaxed and grazing, needs to be relaxed, and yes, their senses, of course, with any of the deer and elk family are always heightened, because they are not predators. They are in balance and harmony more. I'm getting off track here. The male elk will sit outside the circle, the sphere of his community, the bee, that he is looking out for. And while they relax, it's his time to be unawares. And so when a predator like a cougar or a panther starts coming about, and the elk with his magnificent antlers, his antennas, he can sense predators coming long before they arrive, even a wolf pack, even a pack of predators. Now, of course, predators are doing what they know how to do within a system that they feel that is what it's required for them to do. And perhaps the elk doesn't worry about the philosophy of whether or not they can become more and change those programs. But what he does do is he keeps himself in awares of proximity and predatory patterns towards his pack, his herd. And so he positions himself in such a way, his community, magic, his psychic abilities, that ancient dragonfly wisdom and remembrance of patterns and programs. He's evolved out of necessity, right? The prey always evolve faster than the predator, and more powerfully, but in unique, magical ways, seemingly. So he tunes in. He can psychically feel, hear, and see with all his clairs. Oh, we have a little fruity fly. Some of the fae are here communicating. And he moves outside, further outside his herd, and goes and positions himself in such a way that as the predator or predators are coming in, he becomes the predator of the predators and they become the prey. So the mountain lion, the cougar, the wolves. And, you know, elk, for all their beauty and majesty, you don't stand in the path of an elk that is serious about his business, and his business being protecting his herd, his family. And so then he becomes the on the attack. And that's how he keeps his people, his community safe. A community that, for all intents and purposes of this metaphor, are living in peaceful harmony. and in balance with connection of nature. Now we know, just like the example of wolves, I love that this is all coming through, wolves being exterminated to near extinction until more recently in the United States, and they were reintroduced in Yosemite National Park, I think in the last decade, maybe 20 years. And they were reintroduced for a number of reasons, but especially because the buffalo and the deer and potentially the elk in that region were overgrazing. They weren't living in harmony. The prey, the sweet and simple and beautiful communities, the herds, were losing touch with the balance of nature, and they were destroying the ecosystem of Yosemite National Park. Of course, they're protected from human hunters, but they needed a natural balance. And so the predators, the wolves, were reintroduced. And now the ecosystem has been starting to show, just as the scientists, of course, predicted, the ecosystem is recovering in Yosemite National Park, and it's a beautiful thing. And so there's a balance being stricken. And this is part of the evolution. I love where this reading is going. I keep saying it. It's delightful. And this is part of the evolution of polarities in this particular little story time. The polarities of predator and prey. Those who consume the prey, the innocent. Those who consume and consume and consume, but then lose sight because there isn't a challenging antagonist to keep them unawares. They lose sight of their overconsumption. And perhaps the prey will, I'm inserting, what's the word? Anyways, I'm inserting a narrative, but perhaps even so, there is a consciousness level where those in the prey category are thinking, well, we're not over consuming. It's the predators, they're the evil ones. They're the ones that come out and kill, and because it's obvious and it's easy to see and point fingers at. But that kind of hubris is what transitions the so-called innocent into the ones who are predatory in terms of environmental and ecosystem balance. And of course, when you overgraze, then that starts to affect how water moves and runs. And of course, it affects the flowers, which affect the bees, which affect everything, and it even affects weather patterns when our grasses and our plant systems are messed with, all kinds of things. It goes on and on and on. Oolong with a hint of chai. Spicy. Feeling a little spicy. I was listening to a reading of an online spirit kindred of mine. Spicy kept coming up. Anyway. So it's easy to forget the essential nature of polarities. And the ones we call the bad guys are the ones that not only keep us in check, but they're also the ones that are the catalysts to encourage, to sometimes oftentimes force, our greater evolution. In fact, when our when our evolutionary impetus is activated, the more constriction and oppression, even hurt and harm that's present, the more we evolve, because We're forced to. And that's not to say that we can hold as individuals or even a collective an intention of hurting and harming others to create evolution in them. Not at all. Because of course our intentions and the signatures within those intentions come back to us. But it also recognizes that causality, cause and effect, consequence in all forms, loving and soft and embracing, rigorous and loud, sharp and edgy. When done truly from a balanced place of objective, peaceful, loving acceptance of the other and compassion for where they're at, we can be a part of those consequences internally. And just like the butterfly wing rippling effect, that internal, balanced, peaceful, objective awareness of consequence needing to be applied in a circumstance, and then letting that go. Just like the butterfly wing lets go of the ripple that it creates in the wind. It doesn't try to hold on to that ripple. It'll just be stuck there in its own whirlwind of ripple chaos. It flaps its wings. It creates a ripple, knowing that it's a part of the witness paradigm and the acknowledgement of how something somebody else is doing could be hurting or harming ourselves or others, the ecosystem, greater scope, allowing ourselves to feel, of course, the feelings and emotions, and then transmuting those back into a centered space of loving acceptance for its place and loving acceptance for the needed consequence, the effect aspect of the cause and effect duality. Actually, that's not a duality. Cause and effect is more of a sequencing. The universal principle of causality. And that lets us know, too, that we have become a part of an awareness cycle because our presence and our attention and intention were in that clear and clean awareness, witnessing, still feeling and allowing the emotions, be it sad and sorrowful, feeling weak and or vindictive and allowing all those different feelings, because those are programs. Yes, you may be feeling them. Yes, they may seem like they're coming from you, or they may seem like they're coming from others. And yes, there's an aspect of that that's absolutely true, but it's not the absolute whole truth. Those are just programs that are being passed back and forth like a rotten potato. And so when we get that rotten potato, instead of throwing it back and it just gets more and more rotten, we say, you know what? I'm a powerful individual. I've been through profound and immense weakness. And I have been through devastating defeated-isms. My tensing is just funny today. I've been through all these states of what society, whatever, says is like not enough. But I went through them, and forcibly and or allowingly, they seeped inside, right? They seeped inside of you. They got in you. They got under your skin. And at some point, you had to let them be so you could let them in all the way. And by letting those emotions, feelings, thought forms laced with emotions that don't serve your truest self expression and experience, letting them in all the way. The deeper and deeper you let it in, and you hold strong and stay present within your body consciously by maintaining your breath and keeping that focus within, letting it in, reminding yourself your intention of love in the highest, divine design, always. Thine will, not my will, those kinds of things. Let go and let God, all the phrases that bring you back to allow, surrender and trust. The more you did it, the stronger that weakness became. The more intricate in design and wisdom, power, of course. Just I'm seeing just these incredible kind of just asymmetrical designs with moving swirls and edges and angles, and they're contracting and expanding and shifting and everything, but it's like a beautiful mandala with that symmetry, and yet it's mutable, and it's 3-dimensional and 4-dimensional and 5-dimensional. My brain kind of loses track of how to see that shape. Okay, there it is. The quantum. 5-dimensional becomes quantum. 7-dimensional is mastery of quantum. Forgive the tangent. Anyways, being in that presence, bringing yourself back time and time again to the clarity of your cornerstones, love, divine design, thine will, not my will, those kinds of things, compassion, clarity, truth, calming yourself with your breath and your focus on your breath, moving through your body, physically and energetically. On cue comes the sirens, and when getting off track, because something external shocks your system and makes your nervous system go zing, and then because your nervous system's heightened and you're awake and aware, you're perceiving then once again like all those narratives and emotions and tied to it, and the rahs and the and I just want to give up and die, or rise through the ashes and start spearheading all the villains and all whatever, all the things, right? Or even entering the nothingness of immobility, inaction, both externally and internally. Those are all important experiences and not to be ignored. They are to be allowed and internally digested and alchemized. But alchemized they are to be, not resided within. Only insofar as however long your higher self requires you to. So if you're in something for a long time or repetitively, it keeps coming back around, you're not doing it wrong. You're doing it wiser each time, little by little, step by step, because to make a quantum leap from one state to the other is to lose the context of how you get there. And when we lose the context of how, not only do we lose the appreciation of what it takes and the relatability with others, to share that through resonance, voice, otherwise, demonstration and representation, we lose our humility, and it's from that hubris that gain that we've acquired in a quantum leap, a quicker processing from, trenches to riches kind of thing. The hubris that then can seep in is ultimately what makes it so easy to have it taken away. That achievement, that gain, whether it's through an external success and or internal ascension. But when we've gone through the steps, little by little, one arduous, teeth grinding, breath focusing, contractual and expansive, alchemizing, self-aware and present, self-nurturing, coming back to the truth of and clarity of self, all those agonizing steps and micro steps in between. That's what builds a type of permanent strength, energetic immunity, as well as all the other layers, that makes it near impossible, as long as we stay in that humility and that awareness and the continual allowing in, doing the work, then showing up as a result, and then going back in. Contraction, expansion. As long as we continue that process and we refine not only our ability to do it, but our ability to be present in how we want to experience life peacefully, in joy and calm, in clarity, and so forth. We refine those things. There aren't really ways for anybody to take that from us. Not until we ourselves, in conscious awareness and dialogue with our higher aspects of self, are ready to and say, okay, I think it's ready for me to take another descent. But then again, there's that balance, right? The elk and the pack of wolves, the prey and the predator. If the elk is able to maintain awareness of his herd and not overbreed to then overconsume, right? To over-acquire and then needing to overconsume. The more we have and think that we need, then the more we need to consume to maintain that. We see that with people as they acquire wealth and status. They start to also simultaneously acquire fear and attachment and need to accumulate more to protect those attachments of what they've acquired. And accumulating more, of course, means more consumption. And the more we consume, the more we strike greater imbalance. So the wise elk says to his community, we're going to have a strong and healthy family and pack and herd, but we're going to stay strong and healthy not by numbers, but by wisdom and personal strength amongst the individuals of a community. That's that ancient wisdom, that magic, because he is not only maintaining a clear and proper channel to the higher wisdoms and the ancient wisdoms, he's also maintaining that horizontal awareness, not just to the well-being of his herd, but the well-being of that which provides for his herd, the earth, the natural resources, and the other inhabitants of the natural resources, both other creatures and critters and animals and beings of the prey status and those of the predatory, and those that are both. So that's how he stays strong, is by staying aware and staying balanced, doing the work, and then also enjoying the fruits of his labor. And he teaches that to his community through both his actions and how he represents himself, as well as communicating it. Remember, he's got those psychic antennas on his head, and he knows how to communicate with the external and receive, but he also knows how he's got this incredible big chest, like a horse too, right? Really indicating that heart. And he knows how to communicate back to from the heart, and he bellows out. He calls to his people, and it's this guttural that comes from the diaphragm and vibrates through the heart and just I'm not going to make the sound because I don't really know what it is, but I've heard it, and it's just so surreal an elk's call. There's just no way to describe it. To try to do it is goofy, but when you hear it in person, not on a video, when you hear a moose or a caribou or an elk do their guttural, just blah, you feel it, the individual. I've felt it in my heart, and that's how he communicates, through sound as well as presence of being. That's some of his greatest power, is that silent, quiet dignity in his presence. Because that's when his herd perks up and goes, he's not talking to us, but boy, he's doing something. And it doesn't look like much, but I better pay more close attention, because he's not speaking in obvious tones that we know, which means I need to turn up and on my inner senses so I can feel what he's communicating from his body, from his presence. That's what you're doing. That's your leadership. That's who you are. And that's why you've gone through what you've gone through. And the universe, and those that are of presence consciousness throughout the universe, the ones who are surrounding you and have been holding you, bringing you reminders of that warm fire, that flame, through all the memories of all your soul's lifetimes, so that you could grow and strengthen and ignite and cultivate that. Let it permeate, spread, and create incredible, intricate, multi-dimensional, symmetrical designs, contracting and expanding, contracting, transmuting, expanding, alchemizing, resonating, reverberating, representing. You are powerful, and you are very important. And you know this when you allow yourself to. And it's time now. With this incredible supermoon, full moon in Taurus, the bull, the bison, the elk. It's time to remind yourself this. This is the feminine, the divine feminine of Taurus within the divine masculine, regardless of gender. This is you. This is a part of who you are. Let it in. Breathe it through, and let it activate and emboss within you and reverberate out like the butterfly wing. Let it go. Let it flow, and it comes back to you, always and every time and space. Thank you, my friends, for being here. I love you. I am grateful. And with that, we release this knowing and this truth into the universe, across and throughout this earth and all of her inhabitants, all of her spaces and traces and places, all of her memories being awakened and remembering all the truths of who she is, the earth consciousness, and all of her creations. For now, we are all a part of that. And we know that power of clarity and truth and remembrance is a part of us, for we are a part of it. And if it's a part of me, if it's a part of you, then that is also available for all consciousnesses, all beings who are ready and choosing to accept and receive that. And so we are grateful. I am grateful. And I let go. And with peace and patience, I allow. Thank you, my friends. So much love. Have a beautiful full moon celebration. Aho.